the screen. Oops. Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is my first time using this platform here. I'm very excited to be here with you, where we will discuss anything and everything towards communication, leadership, presentation, especially for women, professional women, on how you can do even better from where you are right now, what you're doing well, what you can improve, and what you're not doing so well, and what you can also improve. This is the first official launching, like the opening of these live sessions here. I have set Thursdays at 7 p.m. to be here with you for maybe 10-15 minutes. We see how it works. And I want to bring topics, but I want your support in terms of, let me know in this chat what are the topics you want me to talk about or bring to you. I will bring guests in the future as well, people who have the experience in on stages and giving presentations, are leaders in their fields, and then they can share their experience, because I want us to use this space for as a platform for learning and improving and moving forward and with a better and a higher perspective for the upcoming year, as we had such a challenging year. But I believe some of you will agree with me, where there are obstacles, there are also opportunities, and many people found amazing opportunities being in this space, including myself. I'm here talking to you, and I've done lots of self-learning and got myself into also trainings with the experts in several different areas related to this space. And of course, I'm exploring ways of communicating through this virtual environment and bringing different ways that are more creative and where we can keep our conversation going. So I'm here today seated. Maybe the next time I'm standing. I am testing. And I want you to also send me your suggestions so we can grow together in this platform. For today, because for the ones who don't know me yet, I'm Tulia Lopez, and for the past 6 years, I've been working with professional women who are ambitious, and they want to progress in their career or in their business, and they understand that they need to come across with more confidence, conviction. They need to command the room with more energy and exuding authority without feeling that authoritative. So I help them to tap into their authentic voice. And once you tap into that voice that is aligned with your values, that you can own it, and then you can unleash it. Then you can share your talents, your gifts, your message with the world. And my whole work is based on going into this, finding this voice. Why is that? Because for me, my background is architecture. I also call myself communication architect, because for me, with my background in architecture, I am all for building a strong foundation. Because if you don't have a strong foundation, you cannot build anything at the top of it. And I do believe, from my experience working in this business for 10 years, in the past 6 years with women only, I do believe that once we tap into our authentic voice, that voice that is express what our beliefs, our values, we then have a solid ground to go out there in the world and share our messages and be vulnerable without feeling weak. And the other way around, actually, being vulnerable is an act of being brave and confident. So based on that, I was this week reading this book. I don't know if some of you know this book, Nice Girls Don't get the corner office. This is one of those Bibles that we have, and I recommend every woman to read this book. And I'm revisiting this book. I read this book many, many years ago, and I came across with some questions that I would like to share here with you today. And I wanted to digest them, think them, about them, and what it would be your answer for them, because that defines a lot the way you are coming across. Because believe me, it's not only the point of learning how to craft a beautiful message, learn about certain structures, or learning some how to do or not to do certain gestures. We have to go into this voice that we have inside, understand who we really are, because then every message we share with the world comes from a place that is authentic and that is comes from our heart. That is when it's said comes from our heart. It's not something that it's emotionally over emotional. No, but every message that comes from your head does not connect with your audience. But to share a message that comes from your heart, you need to know first where your heart is. And I want to ask you, share with you here these questions. The system here has some kind of banners, and I want to go briefly at the top of each of them, and I ask you to think, digest them, because these questions define a lot where you are, who you are, your behavior, and what you're doing well, and what needs to be improved. So the first one is this one. Does it bother you if someone doesn't like you despite your efforts to build a relationship? So my first answer myself to that, I would say, if I'm very honest, I would say yes. However, everything has to have a context. Because if depending on the context, even like of course the first reaction for every human beings, if you say no, it doesn't bother you, I can challenge you that deep down it bothers you. Because as human beings, of course, we are animals of pack. We live in pack. That's the way we are built to live in communities. So if you belong to a team, you belong to a group, and then you're trying to build a relationship with someone and it's not happening, it of course at the first reaction is it will affect you in a way. You feel uncomfortable, you feel a little bit, well, what can I do? But the step here that we have to learn as a professionals is to analyze the context of this a relationship that I'm trying to build. Because it might be the case that you were trying to build a relationship with someone who is not aligned to your values and beliefs. And so therefore your message is not reaching that person. Or you trying to build a relationship with someone that is not even interested in what you're saying. So there depends on the situation, then you have to define how much this affects you. Because if it's something that is really important to you, it's really important to that context that you are professionally or personally to build this relationship and you're not managing, of course, this is very frustrating. However, if it is not so important, it was just because it would be good to have a relationship with that person, so then you might have to consider that that is irrelevant and move on. Ladies, move on. Forget it. You say, okay, I cannot please everybody. I cannot bond with everybody. And this is one of the process of liberation. And don't feel bad. You might feel like, oh, you're not liked by everybody. And we have to learn to accept that too. So that would be my view on that. The second question I have here, when I have an opinion, I say directly rather than I couch it as a question. This is a very common one that ladies we tend to do, which, as everything I wanted to bring to you here, there's not really right and wrong. Certain things, if we consciously applied, is a strategy and a technique that you might use to get where you want to get. For example, this in this question is a case of transforming a statement in a question. We do that when we want to soften our statement, when we want to get into to land in a conversation not as so direct for whatever reasons. So if you do that consciously, that is okay, because you have an intention. You're in an environment, maybe it's a new environment, if people don't know you, you don't want to sound like as too straight, too direct, especially in this multicultural environment that we live, global, where different cultures, different ways of perceiving. So this is a good technique to get into the conversation in a mild way, setting the stage for then maybe saying something more direct. However, if you were someone that speaks like this all the time, as I just did here right now, there are many women out there that speak like this. They all their statements become a question. So this way, you will never will come across as a confident person, because you cannot be asking all the time. You need to be certain. There are moments that you have to state what you want to say. And sugarcoating here, no, like this is a very common thing. And I see many women sugarcoating their feedback to other women, and because they want to be nice. And I had a discussion the other day with a group of people about this word nice, and we can leave for another occasion because there's a lot we can talk about nice here. And I was talking to these people about this, about how with these ladies, how sometimes, because you're not able to say give your opinion directly, honestly, it doesn't mean harsh, but being honest and open, you are not supporting the other person. Because if I see this very often, for example, given a clear situation, when women go on stage, when they give a presentation and they didn't do a good job out there, and the colleagues, the peers, tap in the back and say, oh no, it was okay. At least you tried. You have done well done over you. Okay, you can even say that in that moment in time and say, okay, yeah, you're brave. You went there, but there's some room for improvements there. We can talk about it if you want. Don't go give your feedback for if everybody out there without asking as well. Go and say, if you want my opinion, if you want my feedback, and I'm open to let you know how I felt. And then feedback is another thing that I will bring to here, because feedback is a skill as well. It needs to be learned, because uh, not every feedback is constructive, and not every feedback helps people to improve. So, but this is something that we have to have in mind. Yes, sometimes we have, it all depends on the context, and you will see me repeating this over and over. Sometimes we have to soften our way in to achieve what we want to achieve. But what we have to be aware, in the warning here, is if you speak that way all the time, that's not going to give you the authority that you want to exude, my dear lady. The next question is a statement. I don't accept blame or responsibility for mistakes made by other people. That is such a good place to be. That is such shows maturity, shows growth, shows that you know where you're standing. And if you don't accept this responsibility, I'm not saying that you go there attacking, because it might be like, this is not me, I didn't do that. That's not the point. What I'm saying here is, to recognize that whatever is put into your shoulders or pointed at you, you're able to assess. You first accept it, assess, analyze it, and then say, I take it, it was my responsibility, I didn't perform well, or say, I'm not taking it because I analyzed it and this was not my responsibility, and explain why. So this is the big process of communication that we have to develop, ladies and gentlemen that might come here and listen, because it's this understanding that we have not to react to everything, that everything we hear. We need to absorb, to be open to absorb, to listen, to analyze, and then say, okay, I take this. Yes, I could have done better. And this is also liberating when you accept that, yes, I could have done better. And also for the person who comes blaming or attacking you, trying to attack, it's also you break the pattern, because the person sees that you accept. And if the person tries to continue blaming you, you can just say, I got it. I said already that I accept it. I'm going to work on it. Thank you very much for pointing this out to me. Next one. When given sorry, sometimes this happens. When given an unreasonable deadline, I negotiate for something more realistic. How many of us fall into this trap that we just stretch ourselves to our limits, that we go crazy because we believe we cannot negotiate? We believe that everything is set in stone. In my former times, my former life working in the IT environment, and back in the early 90s in Dublin, and in the IT environments, the ones who are in the IT technology, everything, I always say everything, all the deadlines are always set to the day before you start the work, meaning that it's always under pressure. And it's always so complex because it is a factory. This is a manufacturing schedule. So if I'm late, if I delay, I affect everybody else on the line, and then that will create a huge problems, a lot of pressures, and a lot of fights, and etc. And this makes us to believe that because if you're not in a higher position, or if you're not in a leading position, even if you are, because all different layers, it makes you believe that you cannot negotiate. But everything is negotiable. You can at least try. And the important thing is that if you are given something to do, that when you, with your expertise, you see that is not feasible to do in that period of time, you have to raise the flag. It's your obligation to raise the flag and go to get the people in charge together and say, listen, for my expertise, ABC, we will not be able to reach this goal. So let's make something more reasonable, and then you can negotiate that. I don't believe that everything is set in stone. There are situations that are extreme, when there's some drama or some kind of unexpected disaster that might happen with deadlines and deliveries. But these are very unusual. Yeah, these are not the norm. But what is happens very usually, like a lot of frequency, is people falling to the trap of overworking and stretching themselves to think, because they think they cannot negotiate their deadlines. So the next one, let's go here. When someone fails to notice something I've done exceptionally well, I call attention to it myself. Ladies out there, this is a call to all of you. All of you. Don't be modest. It's not about bragging. It's about acknowledging. People might not notice that you have done something. and just raise. I've done that. Learn how to say it out loud. You probably will receive some kind of eyes looking at you at the beginning, but if you're honest, you've done it. Just raise, I have done that. This came from my desk. And men out there, another call to action to you as well. Support those women in those situations, because we know for many experience, for many researches and stories and case studies out there, that is a common behavior that women when in the meeting room, sometimes women raise a point or make a good point, a suggestion, and she is overheard, and then someone, usually a guy, a male, pick up the idea and repeat that as his. We know this is almost a cliche, but we know this is real. And my call to the men here in listening to this, you can rephrase that. You can then interrupt or allow your friend who took the idea from your peer, your female peer there. And after this person to set the idea, you can say, yes, I agree or disagree, but Tulia has said that before. And Tulia, do you want to add anything else to that, to what you said before? So it's important that the men who are favoring, like the men who are also working and supporting to bring more diversity to the tables. Like I work with women, but I talk about diversity at all levels. They're all different types of diversity out there. But in the case of like the women, they bring the gender, the women diversity at the table. There are other genders as well. It's my call to the men out there to be more supportive and more attentive, more aware, because you might be not even perceiving that your other male friend is shadowing, eclipsing your female colleague, stealing her brilliant ideas, and she's shying away without saying, because even sometimes she tries to say, but the dynamics and the energy in the room don't allow her to be heard. It's very complex, but let's keep it simple like this, if it is simple. I'm comfortable with silence. Another liberation. If you get into say this statement, saying really honestly to yourself, wow, because this is powerful. The reason, especially everybody, let's say this way, we are not comfortable with silence, really. It requires practicing. It's a skill to be learned. But when you getting to understand silence, allowing silence to come into your conversation, which is the same when you're presenting, you're giving a talk, allowing the pause before continuing. That shows that you are grounded. That shows that you know where you're standing, because you're not in a rush. You have allowed yourself this time, this pause, this silence to absorb whatever is happening, whatever you're hearing, or even just because you said something, you want to allow the other person to digest what you said, and then you continue. Being comfortable with silence is a gift, but it's not a gift that is going to fall from the sky to you. It's a gift in the sense that it's something that once we master that, once we feel comfortable with that, we really move ourselves to a very good level in terms of our communication and impact that we want to create. And it's not, don't take it for granted. It's not a gift, it's not going to be given to you, it's a process, and can be learned. And also, we are not comfortable with silence all the time, let's be honest, but you can train yourself to be comfortable with silence and use silence and pauses to create effect, impact at the moment, in the right time, the right context. The next one, I stand for what I believe in, even if I know it will make others uncomfortable and unhappy. Yes, I don't want to, and nothing is set in stone. It all depends on the context. Depending on the context, you will still have to stand knowing that some people will be uncomfortable or unhappy, and that's the way you have to go for it. And sometimes you might, depend on the situation, you consider to be a little bit more flexible with your standing point. Who knows? Because maybe the relationship with the others is more important than you being so strong with your point. So it's very generic here. This one is difficult to. I don't think there is a one or the other. I think it all depends on the context and you to analyze how. I believe in many things. I'm strong about many things, and but I know that certain people will not be comfortable listening those things that I want to say, and maybe I just don't be with them. And some people we cannot please everybody, and we cannot welcome everybody in our lives. And if what you believe is aligned with your values, whatever thing that's so important to you, even if you feel like a little bit uncomfortable at the beginning, knowing that you can't have those people in your life, tough. That's the way it is. Continuing, I have 3 more left. So I hope you enjoyed it. I received a comment right now from Elizabeth. Thank you for being here, supportive. And yes, I want to have you here in this conversation in the near future. We'll share this space here. So let's continue here. The next one is, I actually seek new assignments that will stretch my talents. Taking risks, ladies, taking risks. So many people are not willing to take risks. Is their nature, is their lack of preparation, is whatever it is. But one fact is known, unfortunately, that we ladies, we women, we are more risk aversion. And we have to learn to improve that. Not saying we have to go crazy, but we can take more risks. And this is all about, again, getting back to you, to your voice, to who you are, where you stand. So then do a self-reflection. Where am I here? Can I dare to do that thing, to go for that and say, raise your hand, said, I want to do this challenge. I want to take this role. I'm going to challenge myself. Yes, go for it, and then work your ass off to make it happen. But the thing is you have to learn is, you don't need to do it alone. That's the problem. You might not going to take any risks because you feel like, I'm not ready, I'm not prepared. Nobody is 100% ready and never will be. Because if it's 100% ready, so there's no growth anymore. So you have to start seeing opportunities out there, seeing opportunities that I can go and give that talk in this event. This would be good for bringing visibility to myself, bringing awareness about my knowledge within my company. Or if you are an entrepreneur, brings visibility to other platforms that your ideal client might be there. So we have to start raising the hand and say, I want to take that. I want to take, yes, and figuring out afterwards how to do. And this I read once, I don't know where now, where if we know, people talk about the 80-20, no, the Pareto rule, something like that, the 80-20, that, but if you know 60% is already good enough for you to say, I'm going to take this step. And then I'm going to find the people who will complement with this 40% that I have no idea on how to deal with. So that is my call to action to you ladies as well. Actively seek for new assignments that can stretch and show your talents. I give you an example here. A couple of years ago, I was in Zurich and I was invited to give a talk in the 100 Women in Finance. So several speakers, I was the last speaker, but one of the speakers, she was the CEO coming from America for the 100 Women in Finance. In her speech, her call to action, which she asked, she raised several times, was, ladies, there's so many opportunities for you here within our companies, within our finance industry, for you to step up on stage and share and present and raise your voice, your knowledge. But what happens most of the time? The boys, the men, they step in when they see the opportunity. They go. Why they do? Because also they are. It's more common to see the men jumping for the opportunity. So go you and jump as well. Start jumping. And I'm not I don't like comparing, okay? But certain things we have to compare. And because everything is about the room, it's about the energy. And this is also about the workshop I'm doing on the 15th of December, which is about own any room with confidence and confidence and charisma, because we have to understand the dynamics of the room. We all have a masculine and feminine energy. And of course, if you get into a room where it's very male energy and you're a woman, you have to find a way where you can try to get into that energy. It's a process, has to be learned. Some women might get into that faster because they have stronger male energy, like me. And others no, because they have a very strong female energy. So these will be extremely like a big of a stretch for them. It's very challenging, but it's doable. There are techniques, there are things they have to do. So don't shy away. Don't find your own way, because once you're in, then you can do your own way. But before you have to get in, you have to be accepted, and then you find your way around. So my last two ones, this one is, I am among the first to speak in meetings. Okay, you cannot generalize this, but my point here is, if there is, if you're leading the meeting, you have to be the first one. But my point here would be, raise your voice, give your opinion. If you're in a meeting, be proactive. Do something, say something. Don't be just a listener. Sometimes we need to be just a listener, but don't be a listener all the time. If you have something to say, prepare yourself, learn about the context, what's going on in the meeting, who is leading the meeting, who are these people, what are the roles, who has the voice, who is the more charming and engaging person, who is the more troublemaker and rough, or sometimes even unpleasant. So these are important things, because with all these different people and personas, you have to communicate in a different level. Because remember something very important here. If you're saying something, if you're communicating something, the other person is not understanding you, not following, not listening, it's not their problem, it's your problem. You have to find a way to get the message to them. So this is why it's challenging, but it's also super exciting, because you really have to learn ways to get into the people in their way. And then you have to understand their way, their world, and then build your message towards that. So for this one here, it all depends. But my point for you is, don't shy away. Be present. Be someone that has a voice, has something substantial to add value. Especially, I heard the other day, and I'm following this now, following marketeers and my mentors also advise, saying, especially now after the lockdown, we are here in this space pretty much. It was noisy and is noisier, but don't be part of the noise. Be part of the ones giving content like I'm doing here. Give content. Don't be only consuming content. Give content. And this applies also to your meetings. Bring something. Bring your view about something. Prepare yourself, of course, but bring your view. And be open to be also someone saying, I disagree with you. Oh, that is so bad. But when someone says something like this, with my experience and something that if you work with me, you know, you will learn that when someone attacks you like this person has a very poor leadership skills. So there are ways that you can get back into the conversation with how you can rephrase that the person needs get the person start listening to you, because this is a way to try to push you away, to block you away. And if your message is important, you have to find a ways to get in again. I share here another story. I was leading a group. I was supervising few groups in Toastmasters, few clubs, and we had the meeting where I was a supervisor. They had to report to me, presidents of different clubs, and they were not doing things the way it was supposed to be. And then I made my point, and I wanted to make a suggestion. And the president of the one club stopped me like that and said, no, don't even say anything because we are not going to change. Of course, that hit me and my heart started bouncing, lost also almost my breath and start stretching and think, oh my God, because you're not expecting this. But then breath in, and then I said, okay, however, I still want to give my point of view. And then he got nervous. No, but I'm just telling you, we're not going to do it. I said, that is your decision. But I want to say my view about this situation because I believe your other colleagues need to know how I feel and how I see the situation. And then his body language was everything like, okay, go. And then the lady here took the breath and controlled herself for not speeding up, start screaming and speaking out loud and losing the control and stumbling my words. Came down, and then I started explaining step by step with very, very calmly. And that also allowed me to calm down because I was attacked. And then I delivered. As I was explaining my point, of course, the other ones started listening. And they started, I never heard about this. Well, long story short, everything was fine. And then after 1 year, one day I received a message from this guy. Maybe one day he watched this video and he knows who he is. He said to me, it was in a mail about something else. And then but in the bottom, he said, thank you for your leadership. And for me, it was a super big compliment. And I share this with you because there's so many women like that, so talented, with so much to give. And they shy away because they are not proactive enough. Lastly, my verbal message. My verbal messages are crisp and concise. Well, women, we all have to learn, improve on that, don't we? And especially Latin women like me. And I say that in my environment, we communicate in circle, like in a spiral. So everything is you to reach a point, you go around until you say what you want to say. So, but this is in that culture. And we have to learn those things when we are going to communicate with people like that. Like in a German, my husband's German, everything is 1, 2, 3, 4, linear. It's 1 comes, 2 comes after 1, and 3 comes after 2. There's no jumping. So, and for me, being a Latin, communicating that way, who is very creative, the linear communication is a super tremendous challenge. So saying that is when I am in a professional encounter, In the social encounter, it's still okay. I can go around because I go around and become very festive because I go collecting stories all over until I get to my point. The problem is not to lose the point, but I get there. But in a professional environment is to be able to deliver a message crisp and concise and to the point. And same when you're speaking, especially when you're speaking, that you have an allocated time to deliver your message. Please, please respect that time. Please, please use that time wisely. And people who hire you for their event, they will love you. And people in the same, they are not going to love you in that much if you go over time. And I organize events for the ones who know me, not this year, but been organizing events since 2014, and several events in Switzerland, in Zurich, in Barcelona, Porto. And I had my selection of speakers, and the ones who are in time, I terrify them with the time, because I would say to them, you have 15 minutes. If you don't finish at 15 minutes, you have 1 minute to wrap up. They were timed as we do in Toastmasters. But I would tell them, if you don't stop in time, I will stop you. I go on stage and I just stop you. Lie in a very good way, in a charming way, but I will stop you, because I cannot afford to have like my last speaker, my last ones not being able to give their presentation for the same time that I was allocated to you, because you took more of the time that I was allocated to you. And I've seen, I didn't experience this myself, but a colleague who was the last speaker of the event, and he was removed because there was no time left for him. He was paid anyways, but that's not the point. The point is he came there to deliver a message. He prepared himself to deliver a message, and he was there for a purpose. It was not only for the money. We don't do this just for the money, but the money is a gratification for our good job, but that is important. So learn how to speak more crisp and concise in the right space, and get your voice out there, ladies. And let's continue this conversation next week. So if you have ideas, if you want me to talk about something that, or ask me questions, challenge me. I always say, challenge me with questions, and let's continue the conversation then. Bye for now. Have a good evening or good day, depending on where you are, and stay safe.